All right. Hello, everyone. This is our first live session, and we're going to join the great Raymond Babaian to our feed. The honorable, the venerable.
Oh, it worked. Oh,
the upside down, sideways.
Upside down.
Yeah, good job.
We got to twist it.
Way to be prepared. Aren't you at the World Health Organization with that globe behind you? I mean, I think your tech would be better than this. You're literally. Hold on.
I understand.
We'll
we got to twist it.
We'll just do it this way. Let's go this way.
You're funny, dude.
Thanks for being prepared. Yeah, okay.
I like it.
Here we go.
I like it. See, look, here's how it looks. Yeah. So my IT, we're having
IT. Yeah, she's TI. She's not really IT. Backwards.
I don't know how we're gonna do this then.
Are we ready?
Yeah, dude, you look better than I thought you would.
Oh God, I love you. Thank you. You look great too. How did you manage to do the hair without being able to go to a hair salon or anything? I mean, like,
I've been in hair and makeup for the last 2 hours, dude.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I have my way.
You look great.
All right, thank you. You need to put your. I need.
Who are you talking to? You should be quarantined right now. You shouldn't be anybody around you. Is everyone 6 feet away?
No, Christina, I am not. To answer that question, I am definitely not. All right, I guess we can start. We're getting a lot of friends, family, people I probably don't know or like are joining as well. So good to know.
Like.
Yeah, I know. What do you do? Okay. Anyways,
I'm
guys,
drinking water.
Thank you.
This is an advertisement for Fiji.
Thank you for joining us. We want to keep this light yet informative. It's interesting how many questions we've been getting from people asking a lot of stuff. We're getting a lot of new client inquiries, old client inquiries, stupid questions. It's shocking how stupid this world is right now. But we're here to answer all the questions and do the best we can. How are things in your life of the world, Cam?
Things are great. I miss you. That part's, it's sad that I don't get to see you every day. So that part sucks, but it's nice being with the family. Things are good. It's temporary.
Oh my God, you're so full of shit. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's interesting. Things are interesting. Let me tell you a little story. Yesterday I was working, right here in this room. And then I heard wailing sounds of terror from downstairs and screaming. Ah! And so I run downstairs and I see a pool of blood in the sink. And I just look, and I didn't really realize what was happening. I just saw the two kids sitting at the kitchen table, and literally both of them are like, and just dead silent, and there's blood everywhere, gushing. My wife cut her hand, making, I don't even know, bread. So that was my day yesterday. Today was also fun-filled, but things are good. I'm glad I was home. How about you? Where are you right now? You got a globe behind you. You look like so presidential with El Presidente. Where are you?
I told you I'm going to make a run for the president.
How's that going?
I'm in my home, dude. We are running a homeschool upstairs. We have a separate room, and we're running a homeschool for the kids so they can leave me the fuck alone while I'm trying to get work done.
Okay, here we go.
And it's going great.
F words. Yeah,
thank you.
Good.
I'm sorry.
12-year-olds joining.
12-year-olds are not allowed to have IG, and President of Greenland, that's not even funny. Anyway, look, guys.
I think that's the country behind you. That might be. Oh, it's not.
What country is that, Cameron?
It's a backwards United States. Looks good though.
All right, might as well get this informative. Let's get this party started. Bring the questions on. We've been getting a lot of questions offline already. And I'll share some of my favorite ones, and I'll throw some your way, Kim, and get you started. Obviously, look, with the new dynamic of what we're dealing with, this pandemic and all this stuff, people's jobs are in jeopardy, right? people are scared and nervous and they don't know what their legal rights are, I'll tell you, we're happy to take all those phone calls, all the questions, and understand there's a lot element of common sense involved as well. If you work for a company that has effectively been forced to shut down, I don't think your boss did anything right by telling you can't come in. So have some common sense. At the same token, I'm going to share one question with you, Cam, I got recently, and I'll have you answer this one. Had a call from a client saying, hey, I work for a company that is still open, but I feel like they're treating me differently, and it's because I'm Asian. And my boss said, hey, like the president even said, this is some China virus, and I'm Chinese, and because I'm Chinese, they're making me stay home. Is that legal? And I don't know, Cam, what are your thoughts on that?
No, it's not. In fact, I'm chomping at the bits. Tell me who that person is, because I'm all about taking that on. No, this is not a virus that is designated as one sect. It's impacting everyone. It's impacting all ages, although the statistics say that it impacts the elders worse than the younger individuals. But that aside from the point is to put a race behind it or ethnicity. It's certainly various things. It's race discrimination, it's retaliation, and certainly we would have a pretty good claim in that situation. So that is not all right.
Yeah, and so that brings home the first topic I was talking to you about is, look, there's got to be some common sense involved. The law before this hasn't been changed. You can't discriminate and treat a particular person differently on account of his race, and that hasn't changed, and it's not going to change. But at the flip side, what if you have an employee that had just traveled, let's say, we even encountered this. We had an employee that had just traveled in Italy and just came back. Is it okay for the employer to ask that person to stay home for a few weeks?
Yes, I think it is okay. In fact, well, if it's a non-essential business, they should be shutting all their doors right now. They shouldn't be. Every employee should be working remotely. And you raised a good point. We shouldn't forget about the other laws that play into this as well. It's not just race discrimination, as well as disability discrimination. If someone is more easily susceptible to this illness, they might have a lung disease, or they might have asthma. Those are considerations an employer needs to be well aware of, and those are the individuals they need to be careful of, because that doesn't change. The disability discrimination doesn't change. In fact, they're going to be more susceptible to it. So those are the individuals that need to stay home, and you need to protect all of your employees. And so someone who's traveled recently absolutely needs to stay at home, and hopefully they can work remotely. If not, they have other options available to them in terms of the EED and the various federal and state laws that are being enacted right now. In terms of those laws, what is your understanding, Ray, of how those laws are impacting employees who, let's say, they're not laid off, and they're not furloughed, meaning that they haven't been told to go and sit still and chill while the business comes back to work? What about if their hours have been reduced? What if we're getting calls of individuals of, what do we do? My hours are reduced. Does that mean, or I'm laid off? Does that mean I'm terminated? How do I handle that situation?
Again, there's no straight answer to it at this time. Look, we're in a unique place right now. So we have to be a little bit flexible, and we're looking at it on a case-by-case basis to answer that question, Cam. Look, we can use our firm as a perfect example of what we're doing. We're happy to share how we're doing it, and we're giving everyone the opportunity to work from home. And if they're able to and have the system set up that they can, we're able to give them work from home. But if someone just simply cannot work from home, and by law we can't allow them in our office, what other options do we have? We don't have, the employer does not have a duty to create a job for you to allow you just to sit at home and, color or play games and still get paid for it. So,
I just like to interject. Why coloring? Is that a pastime of yours? Is that the first thing that came to mind was coloring? I'd just like to know real quick. I mean, if you could just...
Cam, I find it cute if you're going to try and make fun of me, because it's not going to work. You know me.
No,
Listen, it's cute. I got no shame, and you can say whatever you want. I got a bunch of little kids here, and we keep bringing more on during our little homeschool.
You're doing
thing.
homeschooling.
Yeah.
So that kind of interjects to or goes back to the other thing in terms of this is the reduced work hours, working from home. How do you work from home? If you do have kids, you're a good example of that. You got kids at home coloring and yelling and talking and all that good stuff. How do you handle that? How do you handle that with an employee that says, you know, my kid is home all the time?
I don't know if I'm the right person to answer that one, because I'm of the mindset, and this isn't necessarily legal. It's more about a way of life. I'm not one for excuses. I don't handle excuses well. I don't handle them for my kids. I don't handle them for my employees, friends, fiance. Who knows? I don't handle her excuses, and she struggles with that as well. Figure it out. You know, figure it out. And if you have a child that is stuck and truly you just have no choice and you have to take care of your child, then take care of your child. And, you know, I encourage you to look at the EDD website, and there you have rights there as well. We're getting a lot of good questions and some comments as well.
Yeah, we just did get a pretty good one.
We can answer some of them. I know there were some questions earlier, and this person wanted an answer about independent contractors. And how are they protected during this time? I got news for you. You're not as protected. But your laws haven't changed as an independent contractor. A lot of the laws that have been changed and put in place have been designed much more for the employee, not the independent contractor. I don't know, Cam, I haven't been getting many independent contractor claims at this time. But as an independent contractor, you never had certain legal rights as an employee would to begin with. Now, we would have to analyze to see if you properly were designated as an independent contractor to begin with. And there's been a lot of laws changed that makes it very difficult for someone to properly classify someone as an independent contractor. Again, I point to common sense a lot. The common sense aspect comes down to an element of control. If the employer is controlling every aspect of your job, telling you when to come, how to come, where to go, what to do, providing all the materials, odds are you're not an independent contractor and never were. I don't care how they pay you. There's a misconception out there that, hey, I get paid on the 1099 basis, therefore I'm an independent contractor. That is not the case. And if you're dealing with that, give us a call, email us. We're happy to walk you through that aspect of it. And ARG, whoever you are more than welcome.
Yeah, I mean, and the EDD right now is taking those individuals who are independent contractors who have an argument to be made that maybe they were designated illegally or improperly as independent contractors. They're still taking those claims on, and they're evaluating that for you to see if you fall within the misclassification in terms of, did the employer do this, designate you as an independent contractor on purpose to avoid these exact laws for unemployment or sick leave. And that may very well be the case, and the EDD is helping with that. And certainly we take on misclassification cases all the time in terms of certain people should not be independent contractors. They should be hourly, and so they should be entitled to these benefits as well. We also got another question up here. It says, work at a grocery store, do I have to work if I don't have a mask or gloves? What are your thoughts on that, Ray?
I need more information than just that. Look, you can't just refuse to work just because you don't have mask or gloves. So the short answer is you're an essential business. Yeah, you technically do have to work. Now, if you have an underlying medical condition that prevents you from performing your work, that's a different story. But you can't just refuse to work just because you don't have a mask and gloves.
I think that's a tough one right now, especially, I mean, I have a cousin who's in the industry. I mean, he's an ER doctor, and they don't have masks. Their nurses don't have all the masks, and they don't have even ventilators for their patients, frankly. They're all short. But I think it comes back to the point of what you just said. If you're more susceptible to this disease, if you have pre-existing conditions such as lung disease, or you've had pneumonia in the past, asthma, things of that nature, you shouldn't be there in the first place.
If you're older, you know what? I'm going to add to that.
Exactly.
I had someone call just very recently who actually worked at a grocery store, and her concern, and I can, without naming names, she is 68 years old and has has a history of lung disease and lung cancer. And she worked for a major retail grocery store, and they forced everyone to come in this past Monday to have an all hands on deck meeting with everybody in a conference room that was designed to only have 50 people in there, but they had 80 people in the room right now. In light of everything, they forced her to do that, and she refused to go. And she said, "No, I can't. I am 68 years old. I have this health condition. I can't go." And they threatened her job. And me, I started salivating at the opportunity to represent her against that company, because that is improper on numerous levels for an employer to do. So like I said, there's some common sense aspect involved as well.
I agree. And I think what's important in all of this is that whether you have an issue or whether you're requesting something that you think common sense you should be provided, put everything in writing. Put it in writing to your employer, to your HR, to your manager. Make sure you document it. I requested this and you stated this. And so that along the lines of later on, if there is some sort of retaliation or they do take action against you for complaining or for standing up for your rights of, I need the minimum requirements of a glove or a mask or something or some sort of accommodation and they didn't make it, then you can point back to it and say, yes, my employer had knowledge of this. They did nothing. They didn't see if I have any conditions. They didn't see if they could make the accommodation. They didn't say, hey, maybe you should take some time off. They didn't do anything and just said, just go back to work. You need to work here. And that's that. So make sure you put everything in writing.
Of course. And to answer those questions right up there, doesn't that violate rules by OSHA? That violates a lot of things. And OSHA, the president's order, the governor's order, that violates common decency. It violates a lot. And Eric, by the way, who's going to try and join later on, I know he's been, dolling himself up, trying to look good. He's been spending time with his puppy at home, certainly not working much. Has a good point. Would that be a cause of action for negligence? It very well might. There's a lot of wrongdoing there. And also, good segue on the common sense part, Cam. Common sense would have dictated you probably should have gotten a haircut for this.
Where would I go to get a haircut, Raymond? What am I going to have some lady or male, female, whatever? I mean, whatever it is, just going coughing on me. Is haircut essential, by the way? I mean, I think I don't know if that's essential. You're blessed with no hair. You're blessed with no hair. So this is probably the first time in all of mankind that not having hair is a blessing. So I would imagine. No, but I mean, seriously, I tried to do it myself today, but this is the best I could do. Hopefully I look all right for you.
No.
Not really?
No. You look okay. I give credit to my fiance. She's the one that did it. Another thing of common sense, those that don't know, shame on you, but you should. I have a fan club at the Raymond Babaian, and they were under strict orders to all appear or run the risk of being kicked out of my fan club. I can see by the number of people that have come and asked questions, many of you will be getting kicked out by tonight, just to put that out there.
That's good. That's good. Just give free shout outs, to your own side business. That's great. I mean, that's nice. That must be great. Well, I mean, I don't have any kind of advertisements, but how about another question that what is this Eric? Who is Eric Alexander's? If they certainly have, he's just talking again. I mean, I don't know what he's saying, but
Christina, I'm not bringing that mug out on this one. Thank you for the offer. So Cam, let me bring up another question that I've been getting. Look, hey, I was just laid off, and my employer asked me to sign some documents, and they told me I'm laid off because of this coronavirus. Can I sue? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, in a very simple answer, likely not. I mean, I'd like to see who else have they laid off? When you say layoffs, usually there's a mass layoff, and usually there's what's called a WARN Act. It's an acronym, but you're supposed to warn your employees before you have a mass layoff. Those are now relaxed given what's happening. But certainly if they laid you off, didn't lay off other people, yes, you could have a claim. And we're getting a lot of those calls of the individuals who have gone to their employer and said, how come we're still working from the office? We're non-essential. Why are we here? I'm exposed to it. How come customers are still coming? And then they say, okay, why don't you just go ahead and go home if that's how you feel. And then a week later, they call them up and say, sorry, we're going to lay you off. That is a beautiful case for retaliation and wrongful termination. But with that said, however, if let's say in that same week they laid off 100 other people with you or 50 other people with you, it's going to be a tougher argument to make in that, I mean, certainly employers are facing a lot of financial difficulties. We see that in the stock exchange, in the market, and just in regular private companies. Everyone's being faced with it. So if you do get laid off, though, you have various options. Again, EDD, the state of California's Employment Development Department, has been making various concessions and exceptions are being made. They're working 7 days a week around the clock. I mean, we have been in contact with them. So you need to immediately file an unemployment insurance claim and seek those rights that are available to you and seek recovery of that. And frankly, even if you are termed as a layoff, you should do it right away. And again, even if you are reduced in work hours, as we'd said earlier, or just asked to come back in a couple of weeks, still go to the unemployment and see if you can recover those amounts that you're going to be missing pay from not working.
I get it, and we're getting some good questions over there. One of which made me laugh, so we can address that one quick. Haroon, can I demand my employer to install a bidet in the bathroom? That's a good one. You can demand it, whether that protects you and gives you a legal right. No. So nice try, but that's cute. Should an employee still get paid if they need to stay home for not having childcare? And they have no childcare, they're forced to stay home, and do they still have to get paid, Cam?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and that's one that's being refined, I think, every day. And Act was implemented recently by the federal government. It's the FFCRA Act, which it's a complicated act. There are various requirements in order for you to qualify in that respect. Caring for your child who is no longer in school is certainly can be one of those factors that you're going to be entitled to possible leave, but there's other exceptions as well. The best source for that is the CDC right now. And all of your employers should be providing some sort of notice or some sort of ability for you to be able to have access to these recent acts that are being implemented. That one in particular, which is by the federal government, was enacted today. And it's going to last all the way through December 31st of this year. So you will be entitled to it. And I believe there's 6 categories. Veterans are included in that. The school care is included in that. If you're caring for someone else who is sick, you obviously are not going to be able to work, even if it is from remote, in terms of focusing on your work. So you may be entitled to some benefits up there in that circumstance, up to a certain maximum and of your pay. So, and those are all detailed in the federal government's, the CDC.
Agreed. And there are some factors in there that you have to look into. And the short answer is, yeah, you may be protected. And certain employers, especially the smaller ones, have ways out on that as well. But there are some protections. I strongly encourage you, if you're in that boat, file with the EDD right away. They're getting a lot of claims right now. I understand they're working actually 7 days a week and have ramped up their force. You may be able to get a job at the EDD too right now.
Oh, man. That's a good question. I mean, sports have been canceled, and I'm devastated. You know, I think one of our former colleagues raised a good point. Is that what you were also looking at in terms of the March Madness? You've been bamboozled, man. I don't know who did that to you. Why do you always get bamboozled, Fred? I mean, I don't get how could that possibly happen?
The answer is, Fred, yes, you should get your money back.
No, I mean, if he gave up his money for a March Madness pool, knowing what's going on, I mean, that whole NBA was shut down, March Madness was shut down. Yeah, I think whoever took his money should just keep it, just as a penalty to Fred. That's my thought. I don't know. That's how I feel.
I like this question. Can I terminate an employee because they do not want to work if I have an essential business? You know, we need a little more information than just that. But yes, absolutely, you can terminate your employee because they don't want to work. Now, again, it depends on the reason behind it. If the person doesn't want to work because, they suffer from a disability and they're unable to, that's a different story. If the person doesn't want to work because you sexually harass them and they don't want to work for you, that's a different story. But if someone has no excuse, no history of any of that stuff, no disability, anything like that, and they just simply said, yeah, you know what, I don't feel like working, that is not a proper excuse. You can terminate them and do it with a smile on your face and not look back. What were the other questions? I can't read all of those right there. Oh, that's a good question. There was a few that were asking about the duty to get compensated. Again, this part of the law has not changed, but it could be, reinforced during this time period. If your employer is having you work from home, and you need certain supplies to do so. Let's say hypothetically, you're stuck using your cell phone at all times while working from home. Can you be compensated for that? Yes, you can. If it's part of your job and you're stuck to work from home and you need that to do your job, yes, you can get compensated for that. And thanks, David.
Yeah, I agree, David.
That's cute. That's cute. You beat me by 1 point last year, and as a result, you stopped working with us. So good riddance, right?
Oh, wow.
Don't challenge me. People know. I'm the wrong person to challenge. Let's go. What's this? I'm a dancer at a club in LA. Cam, that's all you. Dancer in a club? You know those really well.
No, what? No, absolutely not. My club does payroll through, that's not even essential business, but what is it asking?
Do I qualify for unemployment? And if I do qualify, would
I don't even know how dancers get paid, actually. Are they independent contractors? In a category like that, they might be. I have no idea if they're hourly or not. It's a great question.
Those are good questions. But I believe if you're an actual employee, I believe you can qualify for unemployment. And I don't care where your paycheck comes from.
Yeah.
I would list both of them as your employer, the staffing agency and the employer. I would do that for sure.
That's a good question. Should we bring on our esteemed associate who
I think we should
spends most of his time vacuuming at home during this stay-at-home order instead of actually working
and playing with his puppy?
Yes, he does. He has a brand new puppy. Yes,
yeah.
And all right, let's bring him on board. Let's see what he has to say. I'm gonna try to do this.
You're FaceTiming him?
Yeah, Instagram doesn't allow for 3 people. There he is. All right, I'm gonna switch this over. I don't even know how. Here we go. There's Eric.
Can you hear me all right?
Can everyone hear him?
Yeah, you can hear him? Yeah, I can hear him.
Good.
Okay, I'm not just talking into your ears, Cam.
I don't know. Maybe you are. This is a test run. Show us the
Eric,
puppy.
They want to see the puppy.
The puppy.
No one gives a shit about you, dude.
Oh, man. Tell us how did you put on cologne for this interview?
I did, actually.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, you got to smell good to feel good.
Hey, can you stand up?
While the puppy comes here, I had a client ask an interesting question. She reached out to me and said that she was actually diagnosed with coronavirus, and her employer wanted to see her medical records to prove that, actually. And she asked if she had to show her that. Normally I would say the ball stops with a doctor's note. And while there may not be a legal obligation to disclose what you have to your employer, given the circumstances, there is definitely, I think, an ethical one, especially if you work in an industry where you're close to other colleagues or you see a lot of customers, something like that, especially if it's an essential business and you're not working from home. I understood her concerns with the stigma of it, but I was wondering what you guys think about that.
Look, Eric, I'll tell you this. Here's my style, is at this time.
Am I just talking to myself right now?
You can't hear me?
Oh, he can't hear him.
He can't hear him. Anyway, that's fine. It's just like at work. He can't hear us anyway. So, look, I don't care about the law. I'm going to care about the health and safety of my employees first. So if I suspect anyone has any of those issues, even if the law doesn't allow me to ask, I'm going to do it. And I'll worry about the law secondary. That's the advice I would give to any employer right then. And you're right. You do have certain HIPAA rights. And at this point, look, if anyone says they have the coronavirus, I would just take their word for it. But there's no harm in requesting a doctor's note. You don't need a full-blown the doctor can easily put a note that doesn't even need to give the diagnosis. It could just explain this person cannot work for 2 weeks because they're under my treatment. That would suffice. That was sufficient beforehand, and it's still sufficient right now. I will note, however, Eric, it is 2020. There are wireless headphones nowadays.
I spent all my money on a dog. Give me a break.
Yeah. Oh man, I got my comments on that.
I got another phone set up here too now, so I can actually read the questions.
I love that question. If I'm working from home and I get injured, can I get workers' compensation? That's a good one. And I'll tell you this. Listen, we're not workers' compensation attorneys, but I can tell you, I would file that claim. I guess it would depend on how you got injured, but if you got injured performing work for your employer, then yeah, I would. Now, if you got injured falling down the stairs because you're a dumbass, that's a different story. I agree, Christina. I love that question too. Eric, what else have you been faced with lately?
Apart from that one question, I had a lot of questions that weren't necessarily related to unemployment, but you might find this one interesting, Ray, and I think you could probably chime into it. Is a family friend of mine asked if they have to continue paying tuition to a private school when the school has shut down and they're only offering like an hour of virtual classes to their students, but still charging an arm and a leg every month.
I would take the position that no. I have fought with a lot of vendors and said, listen, I'm not getting the benefit of the bargain. I signed up for a service, and if I'm unable to get the service, you're unable to get my damn money. And that's a position I would take, and I would stand behind it every day of the week.
I agree.
Eric, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
As an employee working from home and just kind of reflecting on what's been going on the past couple of weeks, and us as your, Valiant Law as your employer, how would you characterize how the employment's gone, how working from home has gone, how the transition has been, and how you've handled it personally?
Well, in our line of work, and especially with the resources you guys have provided for us, with our case management system, it makes it easier. It's still difficult, the transition. It's not as accessible talking to your other attorneys or the staff or the partners at the firm. So there's definitely some challenges there, but it is a good time to work your cases in, aspects that normally you'd be busy with court appearances. Hold
on a sec, Eric, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you saying you're having challenges talking to the partners of your firm?
I'm just saying the turnaround time is slower. Usually I'll just barge into your office, but now I have to wait for you to respond to an email.
Okay, okay, buddy. I see some other good questions from Sierra. Who is required to pay for work equipment, such as a computer right now? That's a good question. And here's the viewpoint I'm taking. If you already have a computer at home and you're able to use it, you will not get reimbursed for that. If, however, your employer is requiring you to, let's say, hypothetically, scan them emails or use a scanner, and you need to use a scanner, you need to get a scanner, your employer should pay for that scanner. Now, I believe, and this is going to be a little bit of a challenge, and Sierra, as it relates to your employer, I have a conflict of interest. But I can tell you, if you have to use certain supplies at home and it's going to impact your wear and tear, you may be able to make a claim. Now, it's not a lot of money, probably not worth ruffling some feathers over for a $20 reimbursement, but you have claims and you have certain rights you can make. Another good question, are car dealerships essential businesses? You know what? Yeah, they are, actually, because everyone needs their car to still go places, go to the store. I would question whether the sales department is essential right now, but again, an argument can be made that people may need cars. So even the sales aspect is essential, though not as essential as the service department.
Yeah, interestingly, though, just out of a personal experience, the DMV apparently is not essential, which surprised me.
They never were to begin with, dude.
I know, but I mean, if you're talking car dealerships, you know, DM. So, you know, and it also surprises me personally that lawyers are marked as non-essential as well. I mean, in the, you know, in civil, you got criminal law, and we're doing, I think, essential work. But I think things are being refined, and every day there's various laws and orders that are issued that are changing this. That's why we're playing it week by week. And because it's changing week by week, both as to the virus and as well as what the government orders are coming down with and what people are telling us from, you know, from the top down. So it's interesting questions when, you know, saying whether this or that is essential. You know, and I'm surprised by various things that have been deemed as essential and others that have been deemed non-essential.
Well, I know that rental cars like Enterprise and Hertz, they're staying open in certain locations. And while they're not requiring their employees come to work, they are offering pay and hours to employees who want to volunteer to work.
Rebecca, that's a good question. Should automotive techs be forced to do test drives with customers? I believe not. I would take the position that they should not be forced to do that. I don't think that's an essential that's an essential thing at this time. And putting them side by side that close could put the tech at jeopardy. I have personally seen most car dealerships are dirty. It brings me great pleasure to sue them and take all their money. So if you or a loved one is put in that situation, I strongly encourage you to let us know. I'll be glad to send them a strongly worded letter and teach them a thing or two. Can my employer split the employee shift to reduce the amount of employees that are in the office at one time? You know, again, another good question. Yeah, they can, but I need more details about the nature of the business. Is it essential? Is it not? What are they doing? What is the purpose and so forth? But can they? Yeah, of course they can. Well, I mean, again, I can talk about what we're doing all day. For those that don't really know what we do, Valiant Law, primarily what we do, our primary focus is employment law. We prefer to represent employees and sue employers, and for wrongful termination, retaliation, discrimination, lunch break violations, you name it. And what's unique about us is we come from a background where we used to exclusively represent employers, and we've learned exactly what they do, and insurance companies. And that's what we used to do all the time. And we've learned exactly how to make them hurt. And we're doing a damn good job of it. And we're going to keep doing that. And even right now, many people might think, well, the courts are closed, so what could you be doing? Well, we know firsthand that many insurance companies are trying to take this as a good opportunity to settle cases very cheap, because they believe that the plaintiffs and the employees are desperate for money right now. So it's a good chance to take a claim that may have once been worth, you know, let's say $100,000, and try and settle it for $50,000 to $60,000. And it's beneficial to the insurance company because they can quickly, you know, get a case off their books for cheaper than it would have been otherwise. And it's beneficial for the employee because now they're scared and desperate for money. It's a good chance to get a quick buck. So we're seeing a rise in some cases in settlements. So if anyone is shy about asserting a claim because they feel as though it won't go anywhere right now, you're sorely mistaken. As I said earlier in this thing, I'm not one for excuses. So we'll find a way to get money. We'll find a way to kick ass any time of the year.
Ray, I got an interesting question for you. Do you think an employer could force you to submit to a medical examination if they suspect that you might have coronavirus right now?
No, you can't force them to do a medical evaluation, and you're going to touch them and you're going to force them to do certain things against their will. No, but if you suspect that they have the coronavirus, the employer's recourse is send their ass home. You don't need to force them to conduct a medical evaluation. You can send them home, and that's a different story. Eric, you may want to be on your best behavior right now.
Why is that?
We have some other followers right now. Good question. Are the statute of limitations for FIHA and civil actions told during this time? Great question from, who was that? Yeah, yes, they are. Everything is told right now. And those that don't know what that means it's basically you're pressing timeout. You're on pause. Any deadlines that would have come up during this time period that the courts are closed are told, they're paused. You won't be missing any such deadlines, which is kind of fun for us because, we're having some attorneys on the other side that try to get brave with us and have threatened to file certain motions, to which we respond and say, okay, go ahead, file it. What are you going to do? The court's not even there to take your damn motion, so leave me alone. What other questions you guys got? Give me some good questions instead of like saying hi to each other and all that stuff. You guys can say hi offline and text each other. Eric, no one saw your dog. Where's your puppy?
Oh, Evelyn, bring the puppy.
Why aren't you wearing the top hat? You can't hear me.
I don't.
Wow.
I don't know if my wife can hear me, so give me a second. Oh, no, she did.
Should employers provide us with proper equipment to sanitize their work area? Well, yeah, there you go. Okay. Yes, they should. They absolutely should. And if you need to pay for it yourself, you could get reimbursed. Lift her, him, yeah, there you go. What is that, boy, girl?
This is a girl golden doodle. Her name's Lola.
Golden doodle. How old?
She is 10 weeks now.
10 weeks.
Yeah. In dog years, though, she's starting law school next month.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, dogs don't have a long lifespan.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
Get a dog?
Yeah.
Well, I just figured if we're going to be working from home for the foreseeable future, this would be the best time to be able to do it. Otherwise, forget about training or anything like that. A lot of people have been actually doing this, taking advantage of, the fact that you're home so much. And it's much easier to take on responsibilities like that.
That makes sense, Eric.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap this up in a few. I don't know what other questions you guys got.
Yeah, we're not getting any good questions.
We had plenty. Do you guys have any other good questions going on that you've been faced with lately? Anyone low on toilet paper? I have some extra. How can I advise my contractor?
Any questions offline?
Oh yeah, plenty. Oh man, there's a lot. How can I advise my contractor clients with their employees? Construction is considered essential, but it's very, I didn't read that part. I don't understand the question.
Very hands-on.
Well, I gotta scroll down. How can I advise my contractor clients with their employees? Well, look, again, you're gonna have to, just ask them to follow the law. And the simple stuff, use all the protection possible, keep them as far apart as possible. If someone is sick, don't allow them around you. That's the best you can do. And if you suspect they're not abiding by that, again, there's a time, and now is that time. Throw the law out, throw money out the door. You're gonna have to protect your employees. As a contractor, you have a duty to protect your employees. And if for example, if a subcontractor is not following the rules and so forth, you have every right to do whatever you need to protect your employees, and that's what I would do.
Apart from issues with, what do I do with paid sick leave or time off or unemployment, the crux of this, I think, boils down to that, the government code, the labor code, all those laws are still really in place. And as you said earlier, employers just really need to use common sense when it comes to their workers. Give them the equipment they need. If they can work from home, allow them to work from home. Put in your best practices to keep them apart from each other. Not much else, I think, is truly different, apart from a lot of the, what do I do if I'm being laid off? How can I be compensated? What's the government's going to do for me?
Good question about FMLA right there. Whether it's paid and what would happen if I try and take FMLA and is my job safe when I return? But that part hasn't really changed much. And I'll tell you this, a lot, you need to see what your employer's policies are. And right now there's going to be more opportunities to have FMLA be paid. It may not necessarily be paid, but the best part about taking that FMLA leave is the fact that they can't retaliate against you for seeking your legal rights. So if your employer decides to say, you know what, we needed you at this time and you chose to take FMLA leave, so screw you, you're out, yeah, give me a call. That's illegal, retaliatory on its face, but that's been the same to begin with. But I'll tell you this, with this recent passage of the FFCRA, they did add another portion to that adds another element of anti-retaliation. So employers would be wise to make sure they don't retaliate or treat anyone differently for asserting their legal rights during this crucial time. Can an employer provide a puppy as a reasonable accommodation? Cam, you have experience with puppies, big and small, here and gone. How do you answer that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to provide that. I mean, if it's an employee that's working hard, I'll accommodate you with a puppy. It's not as long as an employer is at home, they're remotely capable of working, they have everything that they need. If a dog, is essential, then to do their job, then that's great. To go over the maternity leave as well as the FFCRA, the FMLA, what's going to happen if you're focusing on COVID-19 is that's going to be set aside, the rules on that, for some time, at least until through December 31st. Again, a lot of things are changing right now, but what's going to be really important is the FFCRA and how that's applied. And there are 6 qualifying reasons for the leave. And we can go over those in detail or maybe even post it, but those are issued by the U.S. Department of Labor right now. It applies to employers that employ 500 employees or less. And employees who are employed by employers that have 500 employees or less fall within the FFCRA, which provides various factors, various qualifications, as well as various payments. So sometimes, depending on how long you've worked with that company, you can get 2/3 of your pay, or you can get 100%, depending on what you fall into, whether you have the coronavirus, whether, again, your child's school is closed, or whether you're caregiving to an individual who has COVID. So those are things that are most important right now in terms of that. But if anyone is being laid off because they have maternity leave, call us, because the laws don't change just because there's COVID-19. The pregnancy disability laws don't change. The sex discrimination, gender discrimination laws do not change. The requirements for an employer to provide a pregnant individual with the facilities to breastfeed or just additional accommodations because they're pregnant doesn't change just because of the virus that's going on. And so that's very important to note. And again, if those are things that are happening to you right now, you need to document those, you need to contact us, and we'd be happy to advise you further.
And to add to that, I'll just say, but just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can't be laid off either. And what I mean by that is, if the employer is hypothetically laying off all of their recent hires for the last 2 years, whether or not you're pregnant or old or have a disability, if they're laying off everybody because they can't keep their business in operation, you don't really have any legal rights. Now, but the same token, they're picking and choosing who they're laying off, and it just so happens they're picking on the pregnant people or the women or the certain race or whatever, then obviously, yeah, that would be illegal.
I agree. So we're approaching here on an hour. I mean, this has been good, productive. We can continue this. Again, we're seeing a lot of changes, a lot of orders coming down. In practice, things are changing. Different acts are being implemented, and week to week things change. And we'll likely be back within a week or two to answer some more questions and see if things have changed. But I appreciate the time and everyone's participating in this, as well as our guest of honor, Eric Galanians. So we're going to be signing off now, Ray. If
before we do, I do want to answer that last question. That's a really good one. So we have more than 10 people working, and I don't feel comfortable being in the office. Can I bring this up without being retaliated? Absolutely, you can, because it's arguable that the very fact that they have more than 10 people in the office right now is violating of law. So this is very similar to let's forget the coronavirus. Let's forget all this for right now. Let's use this hypothetical scenario that we're accustomed to dealing with. You have an employee asserting his legal rights, telling his employer that I don't like certain things. Let's say, for example, the most common one is, hey, employer, by law, I'm allowed to take a lunch break before the start of my 5th hour, yet you guys continuously don't allow me to do that. And I think that's illegal. Don't you know that? Have you checked these laws into the labor code? That's illegal. If your employer says, hey, if you don't like it, you're gone, and they fire you, that's illegal retaliation. The best advice we can tell you, short of calling us first, is put that in writing, because at least you have a paper trail and evidence to support it when we go to sue them. So keep that in mind. We're happy, as Kamran said, to take calls or emails offline. We've been getting a lot. We appreciate the support. We appreciate people logging in right now, notwithstanding Kamran's poor attire and haircut. So thank you guys.
Get back to coloring. All right.
Cammy, I miss you. Good to see you, bud.
All right. Bye.